Good afternoon, everybody. I think I'll just brush up what we saw yesterday. Liberal nationalism. I think we covered what is political liberalism. What are the different aspects of political liberalism? It's just freedom for the individual, equality of all before law, and end of autocracy. End of autocracy means, what do you mean by an autocrat? Autocrat is one who rules according to the decisions taken by him. He is an absolute ruler, so he is called as an autocrat. There are two types of autocrat. One is the absolute ruler and the other one is the benevolent autocrat. A benevolent autocrat is one who rules in favor of the people. And an absolute autocrat is one who takes decision only in favor of him. And under the liberal nationalism, under liberal nationalism, another aspect is they wanted a constitution. And you know what is a constitution? I need not define what is a constitution. You have learnt it in 8th and in 9th. They wanted a constitution, a representative government through the parliament. So a parliament, they wanted a law-making body, and all the representatives of the parliament were to be elected by the people. Now coming on to the economic aspect of liberalism, it meant freedom of markets. So globalization, you can just link it to what we say globalization today. Freedom of markets, where they wanted freedom to sell their products, sell their commodities without any trade barriers. Second one was they established an organization, or you can call it as a union, called the Customs Union. Otherwise, it was termed as the Zollverein. ZOLLVERIN. The aim was to abolish tariff barriers. Any barrier, whatever restrictions were imposed with regard to customs, with regard to trade. They wanted to abolish it and to reduce the number of currencies to 2. You know, since Europe it was a continent of different states. Each state had its own currencies. Almost, I think, 39 currencies or so. So what happened was, when there was movement of goods, it was difficult for them to calculate, and they had their own weights and measures also. So it was difficult to calculate in terms of different currencies. So ultimately it was decided to reduce the currencies to 2. So that was one of the most important achievement of the establishment of Zollverein, or otherwise called as a Customs Union. Now we shall pass on to the new conservatism after 1815. So this 1815, a session of different leaders of the European nations took place, and that was called as the Congress of Vienna. Congress, here it is not a party. Congress, a meeting or a session of various leaders. It was held at Vienna, and so it was called as the Congress of Vienna. And one of the most important decisions that was taken here was the establishment of Zollverein, or the Customs Union. First, what do you mean by conservative? Sticking on to the old tradition. They are conservatives, they are orthodox. Orthodox, or a person who is conservative, he wants to stick on only to those traditions and customs and conventions which he has been following right from, say, a very long period. They don't want to accept any new changes, so that is why you call them as conservatives, and those who are ready to accept new changes, they are called as the liberals. So now, from 1815, the term new conservatives. What is this new conservative? What's the difference between a conservative and a new conservative? So those who were called as the new conservatives, they believed that the institutions, the states that should be preserved, all those traditions which the states were following, the rulers, the people were following, it should be preserved with some of the changes initiated by Napoleon. You have seen Napoleon introduce, he did introduce certain liberal changes. You saw the abolition of feudal system, weights and measures, uniform weights and measures, so many things, what you call as freedom of all were treated equal. So all these things were introduced by Napoleon, and so they wanted to retain those conservative practices along with the the liberal changes initiated by Napoleon. I was just talking to you about Treaty of Vienna. There, some changes were made in the boundaries and some administrative changes were introduced. First, let us see about France. France was ruled by Bourbon dynasty, but after the fall of, that is after defeat of Napoleon, the Bourbon dynasty, the French rule was taken away from Bourbon dynasty. But now, according to the Treaty of Vienna, treaty means an agreement signed among different nations. So all those who participated in the Congress of Vienna, they agreed to certain terms and conditions, and one was Bourbon dynasty would be restored back to France. The rule of Bourbon dynasty was restored back in France. Many states were created. So France had so many states were created in France, and they also saw that France would not expand her boundary in future. So this was with regard to France. Coming on to Germany, a confederation of German states was formed and it was left untouched. So they did not do anything with that German confederation. German confederation is a group of so many states. Nothing was done with German confederation. So it was formed. Nothing was done with regard to the states were left untouched. Many joined together and it was called German Confederation. And some of the states it was left untouched. So let us just remember formation of the German Confederation. What was the aim of this federation, this German Confederation? They wanted to restore monarchy overthrown by Napoleon. You know, Napoleon, you are not learning about Napoleon in detail. Just remember one thing. Napoleon, just let me give you a small thing about Napoleon. You only learn Napoleon Bonaparte and he introduced certain reforms. Napoleon, he became the ruler of France and he wanted to conquer the whole of Europe. And after conquering Europe, he wanted to conquer the whole world. So he was so successful in his conquest, that is the Napoleonic wars, one after the other, he was defeating the countries. And finally, in the Battle of Waterloo, Napoleon was defeated. So, all those European countries or states which he conquered, he overthrew monarchy. So now, after the defeat of Napoleon in the Battle of Waterloo in the year 1815, the same year only this Treaty of Vienna was signed, and it was decided that all those German monarchs whose power was overthrown by Napoleon, they would get their power would be restored. Their power would be restored to It would be restored back. The power which they lost would be restored back. So we have seen these developments. Now let us see about the revolutionaries, emergence of so many revolutionaries. Many revolutionaries arose, about whom we will be learning. Mazzini, Giuseppe Mazzini, Bismarck and so on. So what was the intention of these revolutionaries? First of all, revolution. This term revolution is used not only in science, it is used in politics, in history also. In geography, you learn it as revolution, rotation, and revolution causes the change in seasons. When the earth moves around its own axis, it is called as revolution, causing change in the seasons. You have learnt revolution when there is a change. French Revolution. Monarchy was overthrown, Louis XVI was defeated, and France became a republic. So that is a change. You call it as revolution. So all those leaders associated with the revolution, you call them as the revolutionaries. So what was the main idea behind these revolutions, or what did they want to establish? So their main aim, they were committed to oppose monarchy. They did not want monarchy, the rule of the king, formed after this Vienna, Congress of Vienna. And they wanted to fight for the cardinal principles of French Revolution: liberty, freedom, fraternity, equality, etc. So one of the most famous revolutionary during this period was Giuseppe Mazzini. We are going to see certain important events as a part of nationalism in Europe. That is, what did nationalism in Europe pave way to? We have already seen Greek War of Independence. Now you will be learning unification of Italy, unification of Germany, the Glorious Revolution and the Balkan crisis. I think with that the chapter should come to an end. So who was Giuseppe Mazzini? He was born in the year 1807 at Genova. As he grew up, he became a member of the Secret Society of Carbonaria. It is an organization which involved the youth in becoming, it was an army, organization of soldiers. Later, he himself formed an organization called Young Italy in Marseilles. Following the path of Mazzini, Giuseppe Mazzini, in Europe, Young Europe was formed. And what did Mazzini believe in? He believed in the unification of Italy, and he wanted to make Italy a republic. So you are learning it as a separate, a small topic, unification of Italy, which we'll be seeing after the age of revolutions between 1830 to 48. So already I told, once again, after Treaty of Vienna, immediately Bourbon dynasty was restored back to power. But again, a second series of revolution took place between 1830 to 48. And when we are talking about France, in 1830 July, Bourbon kings of France were overthrown. Constitutional monarchy was established and Louis Philippe as its head. Now what do you mean by constitutional monarchy? Monarchy is the rule of the king. Then what is constitutional monarchy? France under King Louis Philippe, they did have a constitution and the king would abide by the laws enshrined in the constitution. So such a rule where the ruler would abide by the constitutional laws, you call him as, if he is a single ruler, not an elected leader, you call that government as constitutional monarchy. Slowly, the revolution in France in the year 1830 sparked another uprising in Brussels, capital of Belgium. And Belgium, which was controlled or under the domination of United Kingdom and Netherlands, broke away from these two nations and declared herself a separate European, that is, nation state. Coming on to Greece, it was a part of Ottoman Empire in Turkey. That is Greece. It was a part of the Ottoman Empire. And this Ottoman Empire, not in Turkey, I'm sorry, Ottoman Empire was, ruled by the Turkish kings with its capital as Istanbul, Constantinople. The capital was Constantinople. Here also France became paved the way, and Belgium pursued the same path. Next came Greece. It was during this time the spirit of nationalism sparked of the struggle in Europe, and when a spirit of nationalism was gaining more and more of importance, it's a small spark lit in Greece, and it paved way for the Greek War of Independence. Greece is termed, Greece is such a nation with lot of heritage, culture, and so many intellectuals. And Greece was the cradle of European civilization. Poets and artists, they were always praising the ancient glory of Greek civilization. And Lord Byron, the poet, he started organizing funds by writing poems to fund the Greek War of Independence. Finally, Turkey was defeated because Turkey was the country that was ruling Greece. And with the fall of Constantinople, once the capital falls, Turkey did not have any other choice. It marked the beginning and end of the war, and beginning of Greek independence. So Greece became an independent nation. That is why Lord Metternich, he rightly said, when France sneezes, Europe catches cold. What is this? When France sneezes, Europe catches cold. A small spark, when it is lit in France, it starts spreading to other parts of Europe like a fire. So somebody sneezes, you catch cold. That's the normal. So when, taking this quotation as an example, when we say when they don't have immunity, we use. So there's a saying, when France sneezes, Europe catches cold. So you are also just like that. Somebody sneezes, you catch cold. So I think I'll just tell you what we'll be dealing in the next class. That is the next part of the same chapter, romantic imagination and national feeling. What is romanticism? How did romanticism pave way for the spirit of nationalism in Europe? See, I had sent a message in the group that this was my own idea that crept into my mind, that if I could help the students in this, as I told you, the situation is very critical. We are facing a very critical situation, I should say. So under such a situation, opening of your of the school is still uncertain, because your safety is most important. Only then comes the studies. So whatever I thought, I will record my classes. Of course, with the help, I thought I could do it only as an audio, but with the help of my daughter, who is rendering all her cooperation. Now she said, Amma, we will have a video conference, video class, so the students will feel that you are directly talking to them. With the limited resources, I am doing my best. So all of you, it is just not, I am not, it's not an entertainment for me to just post put it in the YouTube. It is for you children. Now since you are free, you can listen to it as many as times possible, and start reading the lesson. Request to the parents, please see that if they have the books, let them read the lessons. Now it is the best time for them to read the lessons. Talking about the last board exam of class 10, one word questions were quite tough. I think you know what sort of pattern you are going to face. So one word questions, you can score only if you are in touch with the lesson reading. I told you all these things a number of times, again and again, time and again, I am repeating the same thing to you. And as far as classwork and homework is concerned, now I am not giving you any written work. I'll keep completing the classes, maybe 3 or 4 lessons, till we start the session. Because I don't want you to go and buy the notebooks and fall sick. Let us all be safe, stay at home, utilize the time in the best possible way, read, enjoy with your family members, your parents, sisters, grandparents, and develop a feeling of oneness. And that is what we all require. That is a dire need today, feeling of oneness and sense of belongingness. So I think I'll call it a day, and we'll catch you tomorrow. Thank you, children.